Welcome to another Adobe Flash video tutorial. During this particular session, we are going to actually make our way around the workspace that you see here. When you open up a blank document, there's nothing on it but just a blank document, and you are under the Essentials tab for your view, and you've already reset your Essentials. So you should be able to see exactly what I have here if you've actually set your Essentials to the reset default settings of Adobe Flash. All right, we're going to start with the top menu, the main menu navigation bar that's located up here at the very top. Just a couple of things that I want to point out. When you go up to Flash up at the top left there, you'll see that there are quite a few different options in the drop-down section. You definitely want to make sure you're familiar with Preferences. When you go into Preferences, there are a couple of things that you can set specific to your Adobe interface. And so things like, for example, let me just go through some of these here. Your workspace. You can determine some things here. Open test movie, auto collapse your icons if you want to actually just have icons as opposed to the actual panels. I'll show you what that is here in just a second. And you can see a couple of other things that you can default. So you can set the scale content as well to include locked and hidden layers. So these are default settings that you're setting up for your Adobe Flash workspace. So this is where you would come to actually do a lot of these different things. You'll notice there's other options located here on the left-hand side that you can also access to be able to customize those things. So we're not going to actually jump into all of these items, but you can see that there's quite a bit in there. So anytime you think that you need to customize something, just remember to go up to on the top right-hand side, go to Flash, and then you're looking for Preferences, and it'll pop up this Preferences window. All right, moving on, under File, obviously pretty standard, just like a lot of other things. So obviously here you see things like Open, New, Save As, etc. Publish, when you're going to publish your document, you can actually come in here to publish ahead of time, as a preview before you actually publish completely. And then, of course, a page setup, printing, and so forth. Pretty standard as well under your Edit menu, as well as some of these others that are here. So I'm not going to actually jump in and talk about all of these. As we will, as we go through the course, actually discover some of the features that are behind some of these items here. But I do want to point out under Window, and this is important to the workspace. We've set the default here to the Essentials workspace, but you can come up here in case you're looking for a specific panel that you don't see. At any point, you can come up here to Window and select any of those items that you might want to see. Anything you see that's checked here means it's already displaying out here as a panel. But anything you do not find, you can simply come in here to the window and then make a selection for that particular item. So let's say, for example, I wanted to see Projects panel. I click on that, and it'll pop up this window as you see here. And when I come back up to Window, you'll notice, and I got off it, but anything that you have visible will have a check mark. The Projects panel disappears on us, so that was probably not a good example, but you get the idea. Anything that you want to pull up as an item would show up with a check mark that's currently visible. Anything that doesn't have a check mark is not visible at that time. So that's what you'll find there under Windows. So if you're trying to find a timeline and you can't find it, or the Properties panel, this is where you would go to get all that information. All right, so let's work our way across over here on the side. Under Essentials, this determines your workspace view. So you use this drop-down menu to be able to decide what kind of workspace you want. So for example, if you were going to animate and work with your whatever design you had here on this screen, if you needed to animate those features, you can actually simply come here and click on Animator, and it will adjust all of your windows. As you can see here, it went in and it adjusted my windows so that it pulled up different types of tools that I would need if I'm animating my artwork. So for example, it gives me my color palette, or the little color picker here that I can use to make some changes to color. It also gives me alignment, because if I'm going to animate, I definitely need to look at where I want to align things before I get the animation started. The motion presets are located down here at the bottom, etc. So it automatically adjusts your screen to fit the type of action that you're going to take. So this Essentials drop-down menu is essentially for that purpose. So again, you can pick and choose from these, and I'm going to go back to Essentials so that we can work off the same screen. But that's what that feature will do for you. Let's work our way down here I'm going to come back over here to this section. Right in here, where you see just going along this gray bar here, and you can tell there's a slight difference, dark gray, then a lighter gray here, and then the lightest is here in the center section. This is called your edit bar. Let me start over on the left-hand side. So under your edit bar, you'll see up at the top left that you'll have the scene number that you're currently working on. Now, I've just opened up a new document, so I don't have any additional scenes. I only have the one. But whatever scene you're currently on, it will display here on the left-hand side, letting you know what scene you are currently working in. Let's make our way over to the right-hand side to see a couple of additional options here. Starting with this little icon here for your scenes. If you had more than one scene in your workspace, you were already working on a document, you would actually see this little icon here would give you a drop-down menu of options to jump between different scenes. So I might have scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, scene 4, etc. listed here in a list when I click on this icon. But again, obviously we don't have multiple scenes here, so we don't see those different options. But otherwise, that's what you would actually see here. This is for your objects or symbols, which again we don't have any, but if you did have some, you would then see a drop-down menu of all of the different symbols that you currently have. So these two are drop-down menus, but when you don't have multiple items, then nothing pops up as a drop-down. But that's where you would find those. And lastly, here on the right-hand side, you can see that I'm currently zoomed in at 100%. You can easily come here to adjust your percentage, so we would hit maybe 50, and it would scale things down to 50. So let's take a look at our stage here, which currently is at 50%. Let me go ahead and adjust it back to 100, and you saw that it got bigger. That's what this percentage sign will do for you. It's just a quick and easy way to change your view between different percentages. So basically, your edit bar is to tell you where you are based on either a scene or how close or far you are from the actual item. So you definitely want to use this whenever you're going to work on something that you need to zoom into. I highly recommend being able to get really, really close to items when you're editing, especially like tweaking a graphic or something like that. It is definitely convenient to be able to zoom in. All right, let's continue to make our way over to the right-hand side. You'll notice that I have multiple tabs here that are open. This is, again, the default when you set it to Essentials. I want to point out these are your icons here that you see. Earlier we were in the Properties dialog box, and it was talking about how you can set the default to pop up as symbols or as panels. This is considered a panel. You can see here it's a tab, and it's tabbed over into this particular item here. So this whole section here is that one panel. And then this item over here is an icon. So you can set it to default to one or the other. Or you can have it open like this where you can see both items there. Whenever you grab these little grooved lines, I'm going to show you right up here, it's got some little grooved lines for each of the different sections. You can actually drag and drop them and rearrange those if you wanted to, or add them to each other so it creates a longer bar. So there it added both those two together. So you can actually move these around again. That's why I said earlier is you can set it to Essentials, but you want to actually reset it so it goes back to the original state. The other thing I want to point out to you is this little icon right here. So if you did have icons like this and it was displayed this way and you don't like that, you want to see the panel, then all you have to do is click on these two little arrows here. That's sort of like a minimizing and maximizing button. So if I click it, it expands my toolbar. And if I click it again, it turns them into icons. So you can toggle back and forth as you need to use those particular tools there. So moving over, so you saw that these are panels, these are icons, but moving over, let me zoom in here. You'll find that a lot of your different panel windows, so when you're in the panel view, you'll find that you have this drop-down menu over to the right-hand side of that panel. I'm going to drop down this menu, and you're going to see there are going to be some different options here. And depending on what panel you're on, you're going to see different panel options. So it's all different based on whatever panel you currently are on. And then lastly, what I want to show you is when you are in the Essentials view, you'll notice that your tool panel appears at the right-hand side to the very end, and it's almost like it's glued down here to this particular section. So you'll find that all of your toolbar menus are here. You'll be using your toolbar menu a lot. I do want to point out that whenever you hover over any one tool, it will pop up a little tooltip telling you what the name of that tool is. So if somebody references, oh, you have to use the lasso tool to do that, all you have to do is hover over it and it will actually pull up the name of that tool so you can identify what tool is it that I'm actually selecting. So that's nice and convenient that you can actually see that little tooltip pop up so that you can get better acquainted with what that tool is actually called. In the Essentials view, you'll also come down to the bottom and notice that you have a timeline. So let's come down here for just a little bit here and explore this section. So in the left-hand side, the very first thing that you see is layers. Okay, so we see one layer here, and as of right now, that's all we have. Layers works exactly the same way that you would find layers to work in Adobe Flash, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator. Pretty much work the same way. They're pretty universal as far as how to add a new layer, how to trash a layer, the visibility and locking things down. So for example, if you wanted to create a new layer, you would come down here and use these different options. So they all work pretty much universal across the Adobe Suite. Now if you're new to the Adobe Suite, then you definitely want to become a little more familiar with the way layers works, and you'll find that in a separate tutorial. So again, this is in your timeline. You have your layers. You also have a tab for motion editor, and once we actually start creating motion and action, you would actually be able to see some of your data information in there. Let's move on to this section here to the right. So we started off with layers. This is where all of your frames would pop up with all the information that make up your movie. So you can, once you actually start adding content, you can then actually start deciding how you're going to animate those objects. And so you would see them right in here. This would start to fill out with lots of different features. This little red line right here that you see that's currently over the number 1 here, this is your playback head. This is going to move through your movie just like you would when you hit play. You would actually see it go through, but it's nice to have this as a marker so that you can see where in the playback you're currently at. So that's really nice to be able to see that that feature. So that's what that will do for you. Down here at the bottom, you'll see some menu, some tools, I should say, that allow you to be able to go ahead and control whatever it is that you're playing. So you can play, you can pause it, you can step just a little bit forward, or go a lot faster than the next frame, etc. So there's quite a few things down here that relate to what's going on in right in here in your timeline. And then lastly, down here, this is set to the default. When you open up a new document, it's 24 frames per second, and that's where this is listed here. You can actually adjust the frame rate directly from here. So that is a quick overview of the Adobe Flash work area. There's definitely more to learn, so look out for some of the other tutorials that talk about some other features.